Hello, and welcome to Dry But Wet's Meet the Maker, a series of conversations with the clever folks who are breaking new ground by creating incredible tasting, adult, non alcoholic beverages. This is not so much about the how and more about the why. We're getting to know the makers behind the brands, discovering their motivations, and hopefully replicating a little of the storytelling we're so familiar with from the wine industry. I'm your host, Amy Armstrong of Dry But Wet, passionate non alcoholic drinks expert, reviewer, and sober socialite. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the unceded land on which we live, work, and record these conversations, the Gunditjmara people of the Ma Nation. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Today on the podcast, I am joined by the lovely Jaz Wearin, founder of Nort, a range of 4 non-alcoholic beers that you'll find on the shelf in most supermarkets and bottle shops. Now, for a brand that only launched in September of 2020, this range of beers is kicking some major goals. You've come a long way in such a short amount of time, Jaz. So
Oh,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you,
Welcome.
Amy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Do you want to kick off with just giving us your elevator pitch about Nort? Give us your short and sharp.
Short and sharp?
Yeah.
This is us. Yeah, well, short and sharp. Okay. Nort we are really proud that it is the lowest calorie non-out beer produced in Australia. And we're really proud that we also offer 4 different flavours. Sometimes you can get a little bit bored with just the one. So we've offered 4 flavours. And we're also 100% Australian owned and brewed. It's owned by my husband and myself, which we're incredibly proud about.
Amazing. Now, the 4 flavours, the 3 are fairly newer to the range, aren't they? They only came out, mid last year?
Yeah. So our first baby was refreshing ale. I just wanted to start off something with really crisp, really easy drinking. So that was the first one, and we launched that in September 2020, and then just ahead of going dry in July, we launched Pacific Ale, XBA, and IPA. That was quite the task, nearly killed me, but we got it out there
3
on
at once.
Yeah, shan't be doing that again, but was a good lesson. I was just really passionate on getting variety out there, I think. So that's why I chose that path.
Yeah, that's an amazing feat to launch 3 at once. The work that I think has gone into creating 3 drinks in one fell swoop is pretty incredible.
It was, and I think it was also may or may not, but I originally started in beer 7 years ago, in alcoholic beer, and I still do. We have Modus Operandi Brewing. So while we've been creating Nort, we've still got Modus running as well, and we've also been creating a new brewery up here in Merriweather, Newcastle. So that has all been going on whilst we're launching Nort into the world as well, which is, yeah, it's been a big but busy, and I feel really fortunate to have this experience.
So this is a pure family business, like it's yourself and your husband.
Yes,
And
I have a little 3-year-old. He's not old enough to fill up kegs, but as soon as he can, he will be on the keg filler. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, my husband and I have always liked beer. I'm a country girl. I'm out from near the Riverina, so I feel like beer's always been a part of our lifestyle. And my husband's always liked beer. And it was in 2012, we decided to give up our day jobs and kind of get on a plane and to the US. We bought a motorhome called Sheila, and we traveled around the states for 6 months, and we learned everything we could know about craft brewing. And so we came back, and in 2014 we opened Modus Operandi Brewing. And yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind from then. I think that was really when craft was taking off, or craft beer was.
So that trip to the US, that was your first exposure to brewing and the making process.
Yeah, it was. It was something we always wanted to do, but we're not. Grant's a home brewer, and I'm not. I just like drinking it, and I really like the marketing of it. But it was so awesome over there because they've got such a amazing community. And I think that's what, and I know we're talking about non-out today, but even with alcohol, it was this really nice, these breweries, they had these brew pubs and people would go there with their kids and they would socialize, and it wasn't about volume of what you're drinking. They would maybe have one or two and then move on. And that's something that really, stuck with us. We're like, oh, this is such an amazing community. And also all the breweries would share ingredients. They'd be like, oh, mate, I've run out of Citra or something like that. And, they would run over and grab it. So it was, we were so appealed by the amazing community. So when we came back, it took us a little while to find a site, but we eventually found one in Mona Vale on the northern beaches of Sydney.
And is that community that you've spoken about, which sounds amazing, and I totally get why you would fall in love with that, is that something that you've seen replicated here in Australia, or are we not really up to that stage with that kind of vibe?
I think it originally it wasn't, because there wasn't enough breweries, and breweries were kind of, they would be national breweries. Whereas I think now that you're seeing a lot of breweries being localized, it's a bit like your coffee, your bread. So now there is a brewery, just in one suburb, and there's so many breweries now, but it's not a bad thing. It just means that it's becoming more localized and more community orientated.
That's nice. Yeah. So you had quite a few years under your belt with making full alcohol beer. So where did the motivation come for non-alc?
Well, it was kind of a two-part system. It was first time was when I was pregnant, and I think if you ask a lot of women will say they crave beer, even if you're not a beer drinker. It must be something to do with like refreshing, hydrating. Yes. So a lot of people crave. I don't know. Yeah, it's just a thing. And when I was pregnant with my little boy, I was working in a brewery, and B, I was craving beer, and I just thought, God, there's not much out there. And everything I kind of drank was very sweet, almost a little bit mechanical, and it just, and there wasn't anything Australian made on the market really. I think except for Cooper's Birrell, I remember. And then, so that I kind of was thinking, okay, well, there's something there, but I've just given birth to a kid. I'm still running Modus. There's no way I can fit anything else, And then COVID hit, and I noticed our motor sales picking up, and then I was talking to my friends, and I was watching what was going on in the world, and I noticed everyone was just drinking more alcohol. They're at home, they're homeschooling, they're working from home, they don't know what's going on. It was just a really unsettling time, and you could see why people were turning to alcohol, because they could just go. And then I was thinking, this is not good, and this is not something, for Modus. I don't want to be responsible for this. Craft brewing has always been about moderation and about bringing people together, but it's not about excessive drinking. And I thought, this is the time to bring out a non-out beer that I can control, and it can taste like the real thing. So that idea was literally, I went for a walk one day, and I had it, and I could see it all, and I was like, right, let's do this. So from that concept and that walk, I think it was 3 months until we got it onto shelves, which was an incredible turnaround.
Did you get whiplash? Jesus.
It was full on. It was like giving birth in 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, it was like the gestation and then birth. It was crazy, but I felt really passionate about it, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is really going to, it's really going to be great. And so it was a little bit tricky to get the recipe, just because I wanted something, especially when you have Modus is known for full flavored beers. I then couldn't bring out a weak beer. Like it had to be going, oh yeah, no, this is good. So we did my brewer and I did quite a bit of work on getting the flavor down. But then I also added the complexity of, like, I want it to be low calorie. And that can be quite hard when you're creating non-out, because sometimes the residual sugar is what gives the flavor. But we have an in-house yeast which basically reduces, almost removes all the alcohol, but it also retains a flavor with also having low calories. So when we got it into bottle and we were like, shivers, this thing's 49 calories, this is amazing. And then we looked at all the competitors, and I think there's only one, and it's an overseas product. So we are the lowest calorie non-alc beer in the market in Australia. And yeah, that was really exciting. And then I went around to the big buyers, just because I needed volume straight away to make it viable. And fortunately, EDG, Endeavour Group, which is Dan Murphy's and BWS, they took it national from day one, which was really, really exciting. And it just meant that we were able to launch in Australia quickly. And yeah, it was a great day when we got that call, and it was a
So
thing. That means it's come alive.
Yeah, you had scale quite quickly, didn't you?
Yes, and I think that helps, in particular with non-out, just with the way that the margins work and things like that. So yeah, it was very, very exciting, and it was one of those things. I think even my brewer was like, oh, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, we didn't think it would be what it is today.
Do you think, like, because you'd had Modus already, you had those pre-existing connections with the Endeavour Group, did that like help? Like you already kind of had a foot in the door. You're like, now here's this new thing that we're doing. Do you want to give it a go? Like, did that certainly help generate the interest?
I think so. I think that definitely helps because they trust you. They know that you can, there's so much in beer making in terms of, quality control, logistics, there's marketing, there's so much that goes into getting actually a product on the shelf and the consumers engaging with it, that I think they probably saw that we'd had experience in that, and we can probably rely on these guys. That was one element, but also, you could see the data coming out of the US, and obviously Europe has been always been a non-alc. They're more advanced than any other continent. But we could see the trends, and I know that Endeavour could as well. And they were like, okay, let's back this and see what happens.
Yeah, that's so good. So at what point during then that next year did you go, right, we're going to add 3 more flavors in here? And how did you decide? How did you land on the 3 additional that you did?
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, we could see the brand growing a lot, and we could see the people engaging with it. They were a mainstream drinker with a refreshing ale, but then we'd had a few people, especially in our venues. Our venues are always great for direct feedback, and they were just saying, is there anything? Are you guys going to bring something out like an XBA or an IPA, and something with potentially more flavour? And we were like, okay, we'll listen to our customers here, and that's when we bought the 3 different flavors. And I think having had experience in the alcoholic beer world makes it easier to choose styles that people are going to engage with. We know that XBA is a really popular kind of craft beer style. IPA is for those craftier drinkers, and then Pacific Ale, that's kind of that in between mainstream and craft. So they were the chosen ones. There was a few others. There's one other that I really want to try, and no one's done it yet, so I've got that earmarked, trying a few little things.
How exciting.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
So of the 4, is there a standout in terms of popularity and what you're selling the most of?
I think the original, it's very hard for the original to be put in its corner. I think that it's been very popular, refreshing ale, but we're really seeing the Pacific Ale come up the ranks. I think it might have something to do with the labeling. The labeling is really pretty blue, and I think Pacific Ale just insinuates, I don't know, the Pacific beach, easy, like, close your eyes, think Pacific Ale. So I think that one's quite popular, and it's been interesting because a lot of our fellow non-alc craft beer makers, they're pretty much all in cans, and we decided to put it in bottles, which was new for us too, because we've always been in cans, and bottles definitely add a complexity, but we just had the feeling, I think it's that ritual with beer drinking, and people, when you open a can, it could feel like soft drink, but when you pop a lid and hear the sound, it feels like you're drinking. It's an occasion. So I think people have been resonating that because our bottle sales are really they're probably our best performing. Well, they definitely are.
Yeah, because you do have some in can now, don't you?
We do, and that was for
Yeah.
that craftier side, and people definitely like, so the independent bottle shops really like the cans. And you also sometimes, you're on a boat or you're out hiking.
Yeah, sometimes glass is not practical.
It's not.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually really important for non-out, because you are doing like practical things. You are going hiking, you are on a boat. Like there's, when you don't have alcohol in your system,
You can
like
be more
the
mobile.
activities,
Yeah.
the activities really open up. And
Yeah.
sometimes glass is not good. So that's why we have pretty much all of the flavors in can as well.
Yeah. I mean, I personally much prefer to drink out of glass. I know that there's a thing with cans, but I can't stand drinking out of a can. And even if I have a can, I'm going to pour it into a glass if I can, because I don't know what it is.
No, and I think a lot of people like that, and it may even, I get the can thing, but I think the bottle may be having a renaissance again. I think
so, and especially like, I don't know, from my perspective, I can recycle my glass now, and I know that it's going and being used for roads, and it's being actually recycled, whereas recycling, I don't know, recycling other stuff scares me, because I think for two years where we were living, all of our recycling was going into landfill. So it's, I love the glass because it's being used.
Yeah. No, that with cans are good. They're like, they recycle well. They, they're lighter to transport, which means your emissions are lower. That's why we use it for Modus. They chill faster. But again, it's a consumer preference, and we just felt with non-alc, the bottle was just going to add another little element that would make you feel like you weren't missing out and you're having that kind of occasional drink moment.
Yeah.
What
makes you so passionate about this, Jaz?
I think actually being in the alcohol industry, you do see like, so it's quite hard work sometimes. Like I remember at the start, you'd be out drinking a lot, and I'm a pretty active person. Like I like surfing, Pilates, I like walking, and when you wake up in the morning and you feel like crap, it's the worst. And then you've got to go and front up and work 10 hours a day. And then you add a toddler onto that, and it's just hell. Just hell. And I was like, so I think I'm passionate because I can see how the two can support each other. And I know that, a lot of our drinkers completely, do not drink any alcohol. And I think you're similar, aren't you? Yeah. And it's awesome that there's all these products coming out that can support that way of life. But I guess most of my data I've seen is that a lot of people are using it non-out for moderation, which I am really proud to be part of, especially coming from an alcoholic an alcohol brand. And I think that's what I'm really passionate about, is that like you're literally giving people's lease on life. Like it's quite amazing. Like I'll go around to a mate's house and they're like, these Norts are so good. Like I have a beer, I have I have an alcohol beer, and then I have a non-alcoholic, and then I have another alcohol beer, and then I have a non-alcoholic. I drive home, I've only had 2, but I've had 4 beers, and then they're like, and then I got up and went for a surf, and like you can literally see the life come back to them. And I just think to be able to have that impact in such an important way, like socially, drinking in Australia is, it's up there in terms of what we consider important.
I think it's the most, isn't it?
Yeah, like it's really, we really align with that lifestyle. So to be able to help people, whether they want to completely get off it or they want to kind of balance it, is a cool thing to be part of. And I'm really excited to see where it continues going, because even it's, I find really fascinating in our venue down here, Modus Merriweather, we have like it's a 300-person venue, so it's quite a big venue, and I love sitting there and watching people. I see like quite a few tables with the Nort, and you'll see they've got 2 in the hand. Or the other day I came down and there was a whole table of non-out drinkers, and that we had like the plus and minus wine, we had Norts all over the table, and they weren't drinking alcohol at all. But I thought it was so cool. They were in a brewery and
Yeah.
they completely covered by their non-alc options, and they were all socializing and having a great time. I thought, that is cool. That's what this is what's about, is that we can do it all,
Yeah.
and offer that as a manufacturer, as brewers.
Yeah. That must be really satisfying to have that experience of being able to see the people doing that and experiencing that and enjoying themselves. And
Yes,
not being the odd ones out.
oh, indeed. And I think for any, like when you're pregnant, you really feel that. Like, I think that's probably what really I felt really left out, and I just didn't want to go out. And yeah, I wish there'd been some better non-alcs. When I wish there was that Monday Distillery. I know that her G&Ts are so good, and I'm a big G&T drinker, and I wish they'd been around.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you're talking about with the moderation. Like when I was trying to moderate, I mean, having good non-alc may have saved me a few years ago when I was trying to
Mm,
moderate. And they teach you, to have a drink and then have a water and then have a drink. But having a water in between drinks lasts for, all of your good intentions of maybe 2 or 3 drinks, and then it all goes out the window. But if I'd
mm,
been substituting in a beer instead of water, that might have been a more sustainable practice. So it's a really
exactly.
good point that you
Yeah.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Um,
same as soft drinks. Like, no one wants to have a soft drink but like, it's, yeah, a grey water
yeah.
soft drink. It's not
Yeah.
the same.
No, it's not the same. And especially
No.
like with you having that more health conscious angle with like really focusing in on making it low calorie and,
Mm,
incredibly low in sugar, that doesn't
mm.
compare to soft drink, does it? I mean, no one,
No.
ugh. I
Yeah, yeah,
accidentally
yeah.
bought some grapefruit, what I thought was a grapefruit tonic, and I pulled it out of the fridge and it was actually just a grapefruit soft drink. And I looked at it and it's like 22 grams of sugar or something per serve. And I was like, holy hell, that's like a meal in a
Oh,
glass.
no.
Pushed
And the
them right back to
sugar.
the back of the fridge. So much
Yeah,
sugar in soft drink.
yeah.
No.
And that
Ugh.
makes you feel like crap. That's just as bad as alcohol, I think. Makes you
Okay,
feel like
well,
crap.
yeah, well, it's
Yeah,
so inflammatory.
yeah, exactly.
What have been the biggest challenges for you in creating Nort? I know that, I mean, you've spoken a bit about the specific yeast that you use. But yeah, I'm sure there's been lessons learned and challenges along the way.
Challenges. I think COVID's thrown a few challenges just in terms of supply chains,
Mm,
um, and like parts for manufacturing pieces and things like that. Um, so I would probably say that, like, logistics, and I would say COVID's thrown a few spanners. In terms of the liquid, I think because the brewer that our brewer that does not, he's got such great experience from wine to beer, and now he does beer as well, and non-alc. So we haven't had any challenges with the liquid. Um,
that's
Look,
awesome.
actually, so far so good. I'm just trying to think.
Touch wood, touch
It's
wood.
touch wood. I think probably the most challenging is has just been the logistics, and um, yeah, but otherwise, so far so good. And we were really, really, really fortunate to be awarded a $1 million grant to be able to put that towards our brewery that we're building in Merriweather,
That's
which we will
amazing.
be able to brew Nort out of, which will, I think, put us at, yeah, we'll be one of the first, there might be one or two others that will be able to brew it in-house, without, using a contract brewer. We still may use a contract brewer depending on volumes, but yeah, to be able to have it in-house,
That's fabulous.
under our own wings will
Yeah.
be will be good. Yeah, that was really, really exciting.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was great. It was a female founders grant, and yeah, so that was pretty cool.
How do you find, like, I love that this is a female led brand, as we find that many non-alc brands are, but you are a lone female in a very male industry. How do you find that?
Well, it's changed a lot. When I first got into beer, it was
Mm,
very male dominated, and yeah, I struggled, and I probably was younger and I didn't have the confidence to stand up for myself, even with, staff, with like staff that are older than me. That's, I'm I started business when I was young, so I often had staff that were older than me, and they were usually men. So I would often have problems standing up for myself and saying, no, this is my vision, and this is how I'd like it.
Yeah.
I would have problems in manufacturing, in terms of manufacturing and building a brewery constantly, trades and people that, basically trades. I have a few issues. They'd be like, let me just speak to your husband. And I'd be like, no, my husband doesn't know about this. I know about this. There was a few of those, but they're good, those moments, because they're like, well, they
spur you on.
This is a challenge. I will not be putting up with this. And then in terms of the industry, it's been like, to be honest, like the actual brewing industry, in terms of the people that we work with, I haven't had any issues. But saying that, I think sometimes I have different experience because I'm the founder. And I have heard of females in the brewing industry that have had a really rough time, which, we're all really keen on removing that, because that's just not on. So that's something I'm really passionate about. We have a quite a balanced female to male ratio in terms of in our business, and it just makes everything better. Even just that's the way the world was designed to be, and I think it just makes it business run better. It makes socializing better. But it is getting better. There's still a little way to go. I think it is a very male-dominated industry. But I can certainly see a change from when we first started in 2014.
Yeah, that's so good. It's so good that that's evolving, and I really think that you're kind of leading the way in that in a lot of ways. So thank you and congratulations on that, because it's fabulous to see a woman doing something so well in such a traditionally male-dominated way. So, and it's cool that you have a really good gender balance, within your company.
Yes, although I would say that if there's any brewers out there that are female, please come forward. Please come forward. I find it really hard to find female brewers. So, yes, yeah.
Oh well, put the call out, female brewers.
I know.
I
know. I really would. It's hard. I think sometimes even in sales as well. And I think I often say, whenever I have the opportunity to say, really want you to know that Nort and Modus is a co-female led brand, and I think that definitely helps. So I'll just get that public announcement out there. Try and encourage more CVs this way.
Good. Love it. Championing it. Totally. What I do love about Nort is that you haven't treated it as an extension brand of Modus. You haven't gone Modus non-alc. You've created, which you could have easily done, and it would have been an easy piggyback, like we see with with Carlton and Heineken and all the big brands.
Yeah.
What was the decision for you behind doing that?
Yeah, that was something I was really passionate about. I was like, definitely separate brands, because they each have different. That's the word I'm looking for. They each have different rewards, and different. They're a completely different brand, and I also thought it was a little bit confusing, and even some of the retailers have been saying it's for kids, like it's a little bit confusing. Have a Carlton Zero on shelf that is zero, but it could be alcoholic, and sometimes in the bottle shops they sit next to each other. So I think it's a little bit confusing. And I think it can, the simple matter is that non-alc beer and alcoholic beer, they do taste different, because there's science behind that. There's alcohol and there's like residual sugars and there's different amounts of grain, and they do taste different. So I think you want your brands to be separated, because Modus is very very hot forward, that can be quite high ABV. It's really got its own identity, and our identity is like beer first, no shortcuts, and it's about moderation but really enjoying your beer, and that was always its personality and what we wanted for that brand. Whereas Nort was about, our tagline is enjoy more, and that that really is the reward when you drink a non-alc, is that you get to enjoy more.
Yeah.
So it was really important for us to be able to tell each brand story differently. And I'm really, really glad we've done that. And I'm also, I think, just on shelf, like, you're not competing with your own brand. You're a standalone. And we couldn't go past the name NORT. When that came up, we were like, yes, that's a cool name.
Where has the NORT come from?
Well, I have to hand it to even though I've definitely led this this brand, my husband, I had a different name, and which I didn't love, and I was like, I'm just not sure. And then we call one of our mates, we call him Nort, because he's can be a bit of a he can be a bit of a Nort. And he was like, what about Nort? And I was like, NOUGHT, and he was like, and I was like, he's like, no, NORT, and I was like, yes, that's it.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I didn't even know.
Did you just put it together? See, it's like, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Light
Not.
bulbs.
Wow.
Yes. So when I was
mind.
like, no, it's actually literally, I think, is the way it's spelled. You just don't associate it with as in Nort, as in zero.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's
that was
so
cool
cool.
to pull that out. Yeah. Yeah.
You've just blown my tiny mind. That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. So we're really, very happy that we went down two paths.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. I think there's a lot of merit in it. And like you say, it is confusing. And I mean, there are tactics in that. And I think it's very intentional by those bigger breweries and alcohol producers, because it just does create this, Oh, well, it's extension marketing, so it's all very, very intentional. So it's really admirable that you've separated, and you've got these two really unique and quality brands.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time with Nort?
Well,
like, you're still so baby. Like, it's still infancy, really, isn't it?
Still, yeah. I think 5 years' time, we'd like to, be brewing more of it in our own facility, which would be kind of cool. And I'd like to play around with some different styles. I think we haven't really been able to do heaps of that because we haven't have it in-house, and you've got to have certain machinery and things like that, equipment. So I'd like to play around with some, limited editions and some collabs and things like that, and just doing some really funky stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Which is more craft, but that's kind of that's where we're from. So I'd like to, I think the grocery element is really cool and exciting. We've always, and I only say that because we're from alcoholic background, so we've always been dealing with the liquor stores, but I think grocery is really cool, and it's pretty, even to be able to, on footy finals, grab a bag of chips and a 6-pack of Nort, and know that you're completely sorted and off you go.
Yeah.
I think that's cool about grocery. And there's some really, I have this, I've always been interested, as I was saying before, that alcohol and non-alc can be a way to bring people together. And for me, men's health is really important. I've grown up with two brothers. I've always been in male-dominated industries. And so I often see male health so important in terms of mental health, in terms of sitting down and talking the shit, not talking this level, like let's get down and talk. And I do like that, how men often find, and it can be non-alc or it can be alc, not too much alc, but in terms of sitting down and they will open up. So I feel like with Nort, I have a lot of passion around that. And there's some really cool things we're doing that in terms of getting behind a charity and doing some nature walks and doing some men's sheds. And so that's probably where I'd like to get, I think, this brand. And the way I'm saying men is only because when we look at our data, we have a lot of men resonating with the brand. I know there's female Nort drinkers out there, but a passion of mine has always been, how you can bring non-alc in a place that you can get men to open up. And I'm not going to be sitting in those shows because it's secret men's business.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I can get facilitators and things like that to, yeah, it's an idea, it's a concept, but that's probably an area I'd like to move into, and I think they could go hand in hand.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting that you have, because I was looking on your website before this, and the branding is really quite neutral. Like with your focus on low calorie, you could have gone a totally different way. You could have made the girls beer that was, health conscious and all of these things, but you've kept it really neutral with the green and the branding and everything.
Yeah,
But that is interesting that you do have these thoughts around men's health as part of the whole branding.
yeah. Well, it was interesting when we did that deliberately, because I'm a female. I was like, no, I really want females to engage with this brand, and they have. But and that's why I was like, it's really important that we do this neutral. But the data doesn't lie, and men just are engaging with this brand, which is cool, which is awesome. But yeah, I don't know where I was going on that tangent, but yeah, the green labeling was because I looked at all these images in like Sweden and like was thinking how fresh it feels, and I just thought it nature, and so the green comes from that place of feeling fresh and vitalized and things like that.
Yeah, I love it. One last question. When you do come to the Modus Brewery in Newcastle, and I'll be the first one there when I do come up to Newey.
Excellent. Lots of non-alc options.
Can you do a tasting paddle with Nort? Would you do tasting paddles there?
We do tasting paddles. I don't think we've been asked for a Nort tasting paddle, but that's a bloody good idea. So I might tell the GM about that, see if we can get it on the menu. But you certainly
I get envy when I see them. I'm like, oh, I'd love to be able to do that. And you've got them all there, like you're ready to rock.
We could actually even potentially do like a non-alc, couple of non-alc beers, like a non-alc spirit and a non-alc wine. That would be kind of cool to take you through the journey. Know that you're completely sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting watching the venues. I think it was big for us with Nort, obviously, to have a whole non-alc section. But I can't believe how, like in the last year, I was up in Noosa the other day, and I think I've had the best cocktail of my life, and it was a non-alc, like blood orange cocktail. It was amazing. So it's so exciting to see that all come to fruition.
That venues are finally twigging and hearing the demand, I think, and taking action on that. It is good, and it is becoming more and more commonplace, which is for us, for the non-drinkers and the people who are wanting to diversify how they drink. It is really, really promising and very exciting. Yes.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Well, Jaz, thank you so much for your time today. I learned way more than I had possibly expected, and I'm so excited. I really want to come up to Newcastle now.
Excellent.
It just sounds so good.
No, thank you, Amy. No, I loved, I'm very passionate about this, so I love talking about it, and thank you so much.
Thank you. So remember, for all your non-alcoholic drinks recommendations, head to dry-but-wet.com.au. Join me next time on Dry But Wet Meet the Maker as I chat to another creative producer and learn about their product and passion.